we first started working together, so many people, so many of our friends were like, oh my God, I don't know how you can do it. I've never been able to but actually, we have very complementary skill sets, let's just say. I described it as being like a game of snakes and ladders. So it's just kind of one step after another. Occasionally you step on a ladder and you have a little break that takes you up a little bit further. And then occasionally you step on a snake and it takes you down back a few paces. Now I'd say it's kind of been like that. I like everything to be 100% perfect. I'm very critical of my own work and, very driven to make sure that everything is the best it can possibly be.
Hello and welcome to Inspired Sounds, Rathbone's exclusive podcast dedicated to supporting and empowering entrepreneurs. In each episode, we dive into the journey of inspirational entrepreneurs and founders who we invite to share the thrills and spills of their own journey. We hope you enjoy listening.
Hello and welcome to Inspired Sounds. My name is Rebecca Tunstall and I'm one of the investment directors at Rathbones. I'm delighted to be joined today by Hannah Dale of Wrendale Designs. Hannah, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Pleased to be here.
Maybe to start, could you tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah, so Wrendale Designs is a giftware brand based in Brigg in Lincolnshire. And we produce a whole range of different giftware and homeware, from stationery, ceramics, textiles, to gifts like paint by number sets, that kind of thing. And it all features my watercolour illustrations of animals.
So I've heard your story before, but I was wondering if you could just give us an overview of how you got started, because I know you didn't actually start in design originally.
No, I think I never really had any intention of having my own business. It's one of those things that sometimes life leads you on a journey that you never really expected. But no, I went to university to study zoology. I'd always been really passionate about nature and wildlife and, wanted to kind of carry that through to university. Finished that, graduated with the first class honours degree and had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I'd been offered an internship at Morgan Stanley in investment banking, and I took it, and I worked there for 5 years in the healthcare sector, in the equities market. And then in the financial crash, when Lehman's went under, they had a massive restructuring and I was made redundant as part of that. So I moved back to Lincolnshire, and it kind of coincided with quite a, I suppose, turbulent time really in my own personal life. I was just Jack and I just got married, and we were expecting our first baby, and 7 days before she was born, my mum was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Oh. So life just changed overnight really, in many, many different ways, and suddenly a kind of conventional 9-to-5 job just didn't really work for me. I tried a few different options and avenues. I was working at a local accountancy firm, and I just couldn't get it to fit around the demands of a growing family and also wanting to spend time with my mum and her needs. So I kind of realised that the only way that I was going to be able to provide some income for my family and have a career that was exciting and challenging, and also fit around all these sort of requirements of the family, was to start my own business, which is where Wrendale Designs kind of came about really.
And you create these absolutely beautiful watercolour pictures, and you started by creating cards, didn't you? Yeah,
so art was always something that I'd loved and enjoyed. I did A-level art at school and then carried it on really, where whatever kind of stage of my career, I always had art as something that I used to relax and something that I really used to enjoy. And I think moving back to Lincolnshire, suddenly surrounded again by lots of animals and lots of wildlife, it felt like a really good opportunity to get my paintbrushes out again and start to paint some of the wildlife that we're surrounded by. So that's really where it started. And I was actually selling little prints, original paintings and prints through some local shops. And it was one of the shop owners that suggested, why don't you do a range of greeting cards? So I designed, I think, about a dozen greeting cards around the children's nap times, and started selling those through local shops, and they just took off beyond anything that we could have ever expected really.
And you now sell not only in the UK but internationally. Did you ever sit down and have a strategy, or has it just grown organically over time?
I think if I was looking forward 12 years from when I started, I mean, it was so, it was literally on the kitchen table and quite a frantic time. I don't think I would have believed that the business would have been as successful as it has been. But I think from those early days when we were going into the gift shops and they were really keen on the cards and they were selling through really quickly, and the reorders started to come through, we realised, I think, that we had something that could be potentially quite special. And from then on, we just pushed and worked really hard to explore every avenue and expand the business into different areas and looking for different opportunities. So I think probably in those early days, no, I didn't really kind of have an end game of where I thought the business could be, but we just wanted to see where it could take us. And I suppose I'd always hoped to create a brand that would be a household name. That was kind of the dream. And maybe it was that, rather than being a strategy, it was a kind of vision, I suppose, that drove us forward and kept us kind of moving forward towards it.
Now, you've been phenomenally successful, but I think what might be quite interesting is, do you have any big mistakes that you made along the way? Anything that's really driven you forward, that you thought that was a pivotal moment where this happened and has changed the course of the business?
I mean, there have been a lot of mistakes along the way. I think somebody actually asked me the sort of opposite question to that recently, which was, did you get a single big break that really kind of transformed the business? And I was thinking about it, and actually it's kind of the same answer to both questions, really. There hasn't really been any one event that's either been a great success or a great failure that's changed the business dramatically, but it has been a series of, like I described it as being like a game of snakes and ladders. So it's just kind of one step after another. Occasionally you step on a ladder and you have a little break that takes you up a little bit further, and then occasionally you step on a snake and it takes you down back a few paces. And I would say it's kind of been like that. There've been loads of a product that hasn't worked, or we've taken on a member of staff that wasn't a good values fit for us, and that's been little issues, but nothing that's ever been so insurmountable that it's really changed the shape of the business, I would say. But I think it's those daily learnings really that shape the entire business and shape the way that you are as a business person as well. How you respond to the mistakes and how you respond to the successes as well, and just make sure that everything's you're learning from it and moving forward in the right directions.
And is there anything, if someone was like you, had an aspiration to become a household name, what would be your sort of top tip for them?
I think the main thing is to try to be original, basically. And there's so many kind of copycat brands that come onto the market, and they never really end up taking off in the same way that something really truly original does. And I think I think that's the main thing, really, having something that's really original and then working really hard to make sure that you get it out in front of people.
And you and your husband, you work as a team, don't you?
We do.
So it's quite a family affair, the business?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we first started working together, so many of our friends were like, "Oh my God, I don't know how you can do it. I've never been able to do that." But actually, we have very complementary skill sets, let's just say. So we've always divided the business into the creative and the marketing side, which I take care of, and the finance and the operations, which Jack takes care of. And so both of us head up the leadership team, and we make the big major strategic decisions together. But we also have very clear defined responsibilities within the business. And I think that helps us to have our own autonomy and helps us to stop treading on each other's toes. And I think from a personal point of view, having grown this business at a time when we're also growing our family, we had our little boy, Oliver, is 10 now. So he was, really in the thick of it, a young business with a baby. We have really been able to support each other. And I think it would have been much harder on our marriage if I was kind of trying to go off to trade shows and expand the business when he was also having an independent career doing something totally different. And, we wouldn't maybe have been able to support each other in the same way. So I think it's actually been good for our marriage rather than detrimental. But
do you have a firm 5 o'clock, we no longer talk about business?
Well, kind of. I mean, I think we sort of have a bit of an understanding that, maybe not 5 o'clock, but as soon as you start thinking about, 7 o'clock, that's it. Really, you don't want to be going to bed on business issues, do you?
Not really. So Hannah, not only do you run the business, but you also live in Lincolnshire, and I understand that you and your husband have a farm.
Yes, we do. So my husband comes from a farming family, and sadly he lost his father to a brain tumour very unexpectedly about 10 years ago. And the land is grade 3, it's very unproductive, heavy clay. It sits very wet in the winter and dries out hard, and sort of big fissures open up in it during the summer. So it's always been really difficult land to farm. And we decided about 5 years ago that it could offer more to nature and biodiversity and wildlife recovery than it could to producing food. So we made the decision to take it out of our production and basically go down this kind of rewilding route, which has been massively successful. We've had like a doubling of the species of birds recorded on the farm, huge increases in the abundance. We had some butterfly surveys done, and the butterfly specialist that came to look at the land kind of told us that it was one of the best sites for grassland butterflies in Lincolnshire.
Wow.
It's just been absolutely incredible how nature's come back to the farm once it's just been given a little bit of space. So we feel, we're in a hugely privileged position to be able to do this, but it just means that it feels kind of like completing the circle, being able to give back to nature in this way when it's always inspired my artwork, and it is just a constant source of inspiration for the new designs as well.
And I understand you have badgers.
We have badgers. We also have beavers. We reintroduced the first pair of beavers to Lincolnshire for 400 years just before Christmas. So they are ecosystem engineers, and they reshape the landscape basically, so returning the land to a much more natural hydrology, and it has huge impacts on biodiversity, and lots of other different species benefit from having them there. So it's very early days, but we're already seeing lots of exciting activity, and hopefully we'll start to see many more species returning to the farm as a result of having the beavers there.
That is amazing. How do you balance the business and the rewilding or your commitments on the farm on top of having 2 children?
It's not always easy. I think a big shift came for us really probably about 4 or 5 years ago when we transitioned, I would say, from being a small business to a medium-sized business. And that was the point that, prior to that point, we were able to, Jack and I directly hired every person that we were taking on in the business. We had a lot of control over everything, every aspect of the business. But you reach a point where actually that's no longer possible, and you end up needing to kind of recruit team leaders and managers that you then want to have the autonomy to be able to hire their own team. And I think it's a really difficult time for businesses and business owners because firstly, it's about kind of losing a little bit of control, and it's something that you've grown from scratch and, have had influence over every aspect of. It's very, very unsettling, I suppose, to lose that control and to trust other people to make decisions. So we went through this process of really kind of almost stepping back and trying to understand what is our vision for the business and what are our values. Yeah. And as a business with the kind of key people that we already had, we worked this out and we defined it to the point where we now have it kind of plastered all over the walls in the office, and really trying to hammer home those values. And what we try to do then is encourage the managers and the people that are recruiting their own teams to recruit along those values. And it means that the people that we have in the business are pretty much the same people that it would be if Jack and I were recruiting ourselves. And so all the decisions that we make in the business are aligned with what we would do ourselves as well. And that's allowed us to really take a step back. So I really only, and this has been a long process. So I'm sort of saying this as if it's something that's happened overnight or that's been easy. It hasn't at all. And we've certainly made mistakes along the way. But we've kind of reached a point now where I personally am in the business 1 day a week physically. So I go in and I still meet with the head of marketing and the head of product development. So I still kind of sign off and make decisions and approvals on the key product development. And then the rest of the time I'm at home painting, and kind of it frees me up to be able to just have a little bit more space to find that inspiration and to kind of come up with the new design ideas, which is it's not always easy. And it's also then enabled us, I suppose, to spend a little bit more time on the farm and to kind of, which I would say is a bit of a passion project, really. It's a hobby. I find it a release. I really enjoy being out there, just being amongst the wildness and seeing even just kind of looking at a little patch of wildflowers and seeing what insects are on it. I just find it so cathartic and energizing, and it allows you then, I think, to bring more to the business side of it as well. So it's really been that management structure and bringing in people that we really trust and really are empowered to be able to make decisions on our behalf, and in the knowledge that they're making them along the lines that we would make those decisions, that has enabled us to do other things as well, which the farm is a big part of.
And do you think over time one of your biggest difficulties has been on the recruitment side? I know it's one of the things people talk about a lot, how difficult recruiting the right people can be.
I think we've been quite lucky, really. You don't always get it right, but on the whole, I think it's easier for a business like ours, where it produces something that people have an affinity with, and so lots of people that are attracted to the roles that we advertise are natural ambassadors for the brand. So I think we probably attract people that really want to work for us because it's a product they have in their own homes, or that they have a passion for wildlife, or it resonates with them. So I think it's perhaps easy for us than maybe if you're selling, I don't know, like drain pipes or something.
Slightly less affinity for you.
Yeah. So I think we probably don't find it as difficult to recruit, maybe as I've heard other business owners have said. And I'm so proud of the team that we have. It's lots of them have been with us for many, many years. We have a really high retention rate, and it's really lovely to see their careers develop as well through the business as it grows. So it's probably one of the most rewarding aspects of having the business, I would say.
And it sounds like you've managed to create a really good balance for yourself. Would you say to other business owners that is an important thing to do in terms of, the work, but also the inspiration?
I mean, it's essential, really, if the business is to be sustainable, or if you're kind of, your relationship with the business is to be sustainable. Yeah. I mean, I think, again, it's not something that's happened overnight or has come particularly easily. I am a workaholic. I enjoy work. I'm in terrible perfectionist. I like everything to be 100% perfect. I'm very critical of my own work, and very driven to make sure that everything is the best it can possibly be. And I think sometimes that can become quite overwhelming. It isn't easy. And I think the other thing that I've definitely felt, certainly in the early days of the business when the children were very young, is I was very conflicted over, and then sort of this sense of guilt that, when I was focusing on the business, I wasn't giving enough to the children. And then when I was focusing on the children and family, I was letting the business down. And, I haven't always found that balance easy to achieve, really. And, and that's with having Jack in the business, and, I'm very, very fortunate to have his support. But it hasn't stopped me from, at times being absolutely close to burning out. And, I still, even now, I don't really have weekends off as such. And partly because I enjoy it, and, but there are times when it does become a little bit too much, and, we take on too much, and I'm terrible for wanting to take projects on because they're exciting and challenging and I want to be on to the next thing, but then actually biting off a bit more than you can chew. So I think it's a constant and ongoing battle, really. And, I try, and I feel like I've got somewhere in achieving some sort of balance, but it's very easy for it to suddenly tip the other way.
Feel so too overwhelmed, yeah.
Absolutely.
And Hannah, thinking about the business as it stands today, and over the next 5 years, what do you hope to achieve with the business over the next 5 years? What does the future hold?
I think it's really important to me that we've created a brand that people really love, and we get everyday messages and emails from customers saying how they bought something and it really meant a lot to them for one reason or another, and sometimes some designs or product that have really meant something to somebody and it's got them through hard times in their life. And I think that is so rewarding, and I think that's what I really hope to continue, really, in building that customer base and reaching more people. Export's been a big part of our story. We started exporting right at the very beginning of the business with a distributor to Australia. And over the years, we've expanded that to many, many different countries. And probably about 3 or 4 years in, we knew that there was demand for our products in the States, and we couldn't find a distributor that we felt was a good fit for us. And so we decided to replicate what we'd done in the UK over in America. So we established a set of sales reps across the whole country. We opened a distribution warehouse in Texas from which to send our products across to every state. And what we found was that having that connection with the retailer rather than through a distributor, where you use a distributor, you basically, as soon as your stock leaves your warehouse, that's it. You've got no control over where it's going, what it's being sold alongside, the message of the brand that's being told alongside other products. And what we wanted to do was to really build a brand overseas in the different countries that we were selling to, not just kind of tick off a country for the sake of, we've got a distributor there, tick. We wanted to actually resonate and connect with those customers. So that's what we've done. And we've done that across Europe as well. We have a sales team across Europe. And so I would say a big part of our future is continuing that growth overseas, and hopefully, gaining more brand recognition. It's always really exciting when a friend's on holiday and they've spotted our products in a window somewhere, or we get a message from or from a customer in South Africa or New Zealand that they've found one of our cards, and it's just so exciting. And I think continuing along that journey is definitely part of the story.
Do you visit your shores overseas from time to time?
Yes, we do. Sometimes we're able to combine it with a trade show or something like that and go and visit a few different stockists. And sometimes it is just literally, we were on holiday in Austria, and we were sitting in a cafe and looked across the road and there was our products in the window. So that was always really nice. And it's always nice to kind of
That's wonderful.
Peek in and say, I designed these products, and it's always really lovely to meet customers in that context.
In the hidden moments.
I think they're always quite shocked. So probably some of them probably think I'm just some mad woman that's
accosting them in a shop in the middle of Austria. I think one of the things, outside of being on the farm, is there anything else that you and your husband and your family do to relax and recharge when you're not busy racing around with everything that you do?
Do you know what? We really don't have that much spare time.
I didn't think so.
I think it really is all about being outside, and we're lucky to have the space that we've got here with the farm. And my absolute favourite downtime and is just having a picnic somewhere in the garden, or just on the farm, surrounded by the birds and the insects, and I just love it. I think that's what we find, or just walking in the countryside. We're very low maintenance, really.
It sounds idyllic, honestly, though, Hannah. It sounds idyllic. Hannah, thank you ever so much for your time. I'm sure everyone has enjoyed your story, but also taken away some valuable messages. Thank you for joining us today, and this has been Inspired Sounds.
Thank Thank you for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed listening and watching. To tune in and meet our next exciting guest in the Inspired Sound series, press the follow and subscribe button. Goodbye.